Hi, and welcome to Book Nook. I'm Lynn Kessler with Read Aloud, West Virginia. Thank you for joining us today. We're happy to be here to read some books and talk about books again today. With me today, I have Becky Ryder, who is a Title I reading teacher at Weimer Elementary in Kanawha County. Hi, Becky.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a snow day for Kanawha County schools today, so that worked out great that you could come and read some books to us today.
Yes.
So you guys have been doing some exciting things at Weimer. You are actually our Read Aloud school coordinator there, and you're doing some exciting things both with Read Aloud and just within the school. So tell us a little bit about what you've got going on.
Well, with Read Aloud, we just in January we had a program called Muffins with Moms, and we invited our moms to come in with their children. And when they came in, we gave them some muffins and juice and things like that. And then we also, Read Aloud graciously volunteered to give us some books to give to the students. And so they got to choose a book that they would get to take home, and we put their names in them, and they were proud owners of the new book, and they were excited. It was exciting for me to watch the moms sit there, and then immediately they started reading the books to the kids. And that was exciting because that's what I want to see is parent involvement with their kids and reading to them. And then we this coming Thursday on February 11th, is that what our date is? We have a Donuts with Dads, and we've done the same thing, and we've invited the dads to come in with their children. And both of the programs have been from 7:05 until 8 o'clock, so it was before school started until right after. And we've had a really good turnout. It's been overwhelming to us because we've had over 100 at our moms. There were about 100, and then we've had about 116 that are saying they're coming on Thursday. So it's been great. We even we were having the first one in our library, and it kind of got a little crowded. So we've decided to go to Plan B on our dads, Donuts with Dads, and the kids are going to take their breakfast to the classroom if they don't have their dads with them, and then that way we'll use the cafeteria. Oh, okay. So we'll have more room for them to spread out and be able to enjoy some time with their kids.
That's good.
So it's been exciting to see. My goal is to just get books in the kids' hands because I know that's very important. A lot of our kids at our school don't have books at home, and so if we can get some books in their hands, then they'll be reading, and that's what our goal is because if we want them to improve, they need to read.
Yeah. And to get that opportunity to connect with the parents and get the message to them is so important too, because kids spend a lot more time at home. It seems like they're in school a lot, but they're really at home a lot more hours than they are in school. So to have that reinforcement from their families, and their families are people that they look up to and people they love, so to have them read to them means something. Of course it means something to have anyone read to them, but the more places you can reinforce that idea that books are fun and are something you do with people that you look up to and you enjoy, the better, I think. So,
exactly.
So we loved when we got the book distribution application from you guys and we saw what you were doing. We were excited about it because any opportunity you can get, getting the books in their hands is one piece of the puzzle, but then getting the families to engage too is so important. So.
It is, and I gave them all a bookmark that day. It says readers are built on the laps of their parents.
Yes.
And I do believe that. I mean, because it does give them that comfort feeling, that warm feeling, and they associate those good feelings with reading then.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay, well, anything else going on with you guys in reading programs? Or
we're doing several things at Weimer. We also this year have done a program called One Book, One School, and we focus on one book throughout the whole school. The first semester we did Charlotte's Web, and this semester we're doing Mr. Popper's Penguins. Okay. And we purchased books for the whole for each family to get a copy, and then we're encouraging them to read that at home. Okay. The first semester we had questions after each chapter, but this semester I did something a little different, and I gave them what's called a choice board, where they get to choose some different activities that they would like to do that's associated with the book and not just answer questions. Sometimes I feel like, I know for myself, if I'm going to answer questions, I'm like kind of doing it, I'm reading it differently. I'm going like, where's the answer, rather than just reading it to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that way, and some of the projects that I put on there aren't just necessarily some writing things, like some little science things that would associate with penguins and things like that.
So you can kind of incorporate kids' other interests into the mix.
And they seem to be liking it. So.
Yeah, and I think I saw where teachers had decorated their doors in the themes of the books and things like that, too.
We had Charlotte's Web at the beginning. Now we have penguins on our doors. And I made, I asked our art teacher if he would make me a penguin that's emperor penguin 45 inches tall. And because I knew he could draw it better than me, and then our art teacher is like fabulous, and he went over and beyond what I would even imagine. And so he made me this penguin, and I put it on my door, and it says, "Are you taller than an emperor penguin?" Because that's how tall a real emperor penguin is. And the kids love it. Every time they come by my door, they stand up against it, even though they've already done it 10 times, but they have to see.
They have to see
if
again.
They're still
today. Maybe
that's right. So we're incorporating other things in there to get them interested in.
Yeah, and that's so important. But that's one of the things we advocate at Read Aloud is just get the same level of excitement about books that you would have about your favorite sports team. You know, the way we just had the Super Bowl, the way that you talk to your kids about the team you were rooting for, talk to them about books that way, incorporate it into other areas of life so that they get excited about it. Because a kid who loves to read is going to be a kid who reads.
Exactly. So. And we have readers in our classroom from Read Aloud. Some of them are volunteers in the community that come in and read. Just about every one of my other classes at school have them. One lady I was telling you earlier, she read for the third graders last year. She's reading with the fourth graders this year, and she's just got that relationship with them. Yeah. And we also try to incorporate silent and sustained reading into our day, where the students have some time at school where they can read what they want to. They go and choose, maybe they're working on a chapter book, or maybe they choose a book just for that day, and they have time just to read at school. And my third graders it was really exciting one day because they came in to my group. I pull groups throughout the day, and they came in for a group time. And they were so excited. They were telling me about what they were reading, and it made me excited because that's what I want our school to be, is just a community of readers where they share what they're reading with one another, recommend books to other students, and things like that. And so it was exciting to see that excitement in them.
Yes. Well, you're doing things very well. We're excited. We're so happy to have you as a coordinator. You've been engaged and involved, and you know, just always coming up with ways to get kids excited about books, and that's what it takes. It really, you know, the magic happens when you get all those pieces to fit together, and you've done a great job of making that work. So.
Well, thanks. I hope that's what I want to see, is lifelong readers come out of our schools. So.
Yeah. Well, you clearly love to read. Tell me a little bit about your childhood or growing up and raising your kids. What books do you love? What were the memories that made you a reader?
Well, I know one of my favorite teachers was my second grade teacher, and I can't pinpoint exactly why, but I remember having read alouds throughout elementary and enjoying those. My favorite book probably as growing up was Charlotte's Web. Yeah. You know, I just loved that book. And it's funny, as I look back at like report cards from when I was little, I wasn't a fabulous reader because I can look at comments on there and see that I wasn't. But as I got older, I realized the importance of it, and just getting involved in a book. I mean, you can just go anywhere and be anyone, and it's and I enjoy that. And then when my children were younger, books were just central to us. We would go to the library, get a big, huge stack of books, sit down and read them over the next few days, and then go back and get some more. And my girls are both readers to this day. Yeah. And my oldest talks about when she was little and she would hide under the covers with a flashlight after she was supposed to be sleeping so that she could read.
And that's been passed down now to your grandchildren.
To my
I know you shared a video with us of your granddaughter, not even a year old yet, and flipping through the pages of the book.
Yeah, she learned very quickly how to just flip the pages. She loves, that's her favorite thing to do, is read. I was over there. I took a book with Olaf in it to her the other day, and so we read it. And after I left, she showed it to her daddy, and he said, "Oh, did Grammy read that to you?" And she said, "Grammy reads everything." Oh. So we spend a lot of time reading, but she loves it.
That's a great thing to be known for.
Yeah.
Grammy reads everything. Well, you are going to read today to my daughters, and what book are we going to start with today?
We're going to start with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs today.
Okay.
And, one of your daughters said she likes this one a lot, so we're going to start with that one.
Okay. Great. Well, we'll let you get started.
The first book we're going to read today is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs by Judy Barrett. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning. Pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air headed towards the kitchen ceiling and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall-tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay a tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted dogs and cats. But there was no food store in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't have any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain. It never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas, and sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. That would have been nice for today, huh? The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in the refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. Ooh, you think the dog's even like that? Look at him. He's got some soup in his bowl, doesn't he? Maybe that's orange juice. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. For lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby, and then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished the meal. They don't have anything in the ceiling, see that? So it just comes right down in the restaurant. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing with a wonderful Jell-O setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. All those dogs and cats are waiting on their food, aren't they? They're ready. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. One day, there was nothing but Gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day, there was only broccoli, all overcooked. And the next day, there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day, there was pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal. They got stuck in the fog. And up here it says, spaghetti ties up the town. They got all tied up in the spaghetti. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it was just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they just had to close the school. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running around to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. They're getting taken up in the tomato tornado, aren't they?
This book is kind of weird.
It is kind of weird, isn't it? I don't think we want weather like that, do we? That would be crazy. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. Get that big old hamburger on top of him. Big donuts rolling through the roads. Look at the big olives. That's crazy, isn't it? The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style, with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their raft for a new land. They used that bread to make them a boat, didn't they?
That's weird.
That's weird. It is weird. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. So see, they used the bread to make their houses even. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so that we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sledding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter on the top, and we could almost smell the mashed potatoes. The end. Would you like to have weather like that?
No.
No. Would you rather have that snow like we have out there today?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little better than having pancakes hit you in the head, huh? Okay, now we're going to read a book about Abraham Lincoln, since it's February, and this book was written by Sonia Black. Okay, let's see if we can find out something about Abraham Lincoln. Do you all know anything about Abraham Lincoln?
I know that he wears a black hat on his head.
He wears a big tall one, huh? Okay, well, let's see if you can find out anything else about
He wears a black suit.
He had a black suit. Yeah, he did in that picture, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, let's see what we can find out about him. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12th, 1809. It's a long time ago, wasn't it? In a log cabin in Kentucky. His happy parents called him Abe.
That's a nice name.
It is a nice name, isn't it? Abe's 2-year-old sister, Sarah, loved him right away. So there she is. There he is when he's a little baby. Let's see what happens as he grows. The family was very poor, but they were hard workers. The Lincolns grew food on their farm. Young Abe became a good helper. I will plant too, he said. He planted vegetable seeds.
His sister is older than him.
Yeah, do you remember how much older?
2 years.
2 years, that's right. Sometimes Abe and Sarah went to school. They had to walk many miles to get to the one-room schoolhouse. They could not go often. Abe borrowed books to study on his own. Soon he learned to read and write. He read all the time.
Why did they have to walk?
Because back then they didn't have buses, they probably didn't even have cars, so they had to just walk everywhere they went. And they had a different kind of school than us. They had a one-room schoolhouse. So all the kids were in the same room, even if, no matter what grade they were in. That's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Abe often read as he sat near the main road watching people go by. He saw owners pass with their slaves, black men, women, and children. Slaves worked hard in their owners' fields and houses. Owners did not pay the slaves for their work.
They had horses back then.
They did have horses, so maybe they could have ridden a horse, couldn't they?
Yeah.
When Abe was 7 years old, his family left their farm. His father decided to move from the south to Indiana in the north. Indiana land was cheap. So in Indiana, people did not own slaves. And there's Abe. He's reading a book while they're traveling, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
The Lincoln family started a new farm. Abe grew tall and strong. By age 19, he was 6 feet 4 inches tall. He worked hard on the farm. Neighbors paid him to work on their farms too. Abe chopped down trees, split logs, planted, and plowed. So he's doing a lot of work. When he was 22 years old, Abe went off on his own. He had many different jobs. Once he worked on a flatboat. He brought farm goods to sell in New Orleans. Abe saw slaves being sold there. They wore heavy chains. Abe felt angry and sad. He didn't like to see people treated that way. Abe began to study law books. Eventually, he became a lawyer. People trusted him and called him Honest Abe. Later, Abe worked as a congressman. He helped to make good and fair laws. He gave speeches against slavery. We must work to end slavery, he said. On November 6th, 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States. People in the North cheered. People in the South did not. They did not want to be part of the United States anymore. They wanted to start their own country. They wanted to keep their slaves.
That's bad.
That is. That is bad. On April 12th, 1861, a great war began. It was called the Civil War. The states in the North fought the states in the South. The Northerners wanted to keep the country together. They wanted to end slavery. President Lincoln wrote an important paper in 1863. It freed millions of slaves in the South, but the war went on for 2 more years. President Lincoln made a famous speech at a battlefield in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. His speech was called the Gettysburg Address. In it, he said strongly that all people are created equal. And there he is in his big hat, isn't he? Finally, in April of 1865, the Civil War was over. The North had won. The president was very happy. Today, all Americans are free because of Abraham Lincoln's hard work against slavery. Each year in February, flags wave high as we celebrate this great president. And he did some good things for our country, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you learn anything new about Abraham Lincoln in that book?
Yeah.
What did you learn?
He wore a black suit.
Okay. Did you learn about what he did to help our country?
Yeah.
He was born in February 1800.
Okay, good. And did he help make slaves free so that all people could be free and not be slaves?
Yeah.
You already knew that? You just forgot to tell me at the beginning. Okay, the next book we're going to read is a Cat in the Hat book, and it's called Ice is Nice. And it's all about the North and South Poles, and a lady named Bonnie Worth wrote this book. You all like the Cat in the Hat?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty funny, isn't he?
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's find the first page. Here we go. I'm the Cat in the Hat, and we're off and away to visit the poles, north and south, in one day. It will be a quick trip in the SS Ice Chopper, my super slip sliding ice breaking pole hopper. The North Pole will be the pole hopper's first stop. It's the farthest point north on the Earth. It's at the top. So he's showing you on the globe where the North Pole is, all the way at the top. Uh-oh. Looks like he's going to bring thing 1 with him. That can get him in trouble, can't it? Some call this the land of the midnight sun. What's wrong with this sentence? Show us thing 1. To call this a land is an incorrect notion. The North Pole is located in the Arctic Ocean. Over most of this ocean, sea ice is floating. So only icebreakers are good here for boating. Snow on land near here can pile up quite thickly, forming ice caps and glaciers that do not move quickly. If you sit and watch and you wait patiently, icebergs will split off and spill into the sea. Ooh. Icebergs are big and a danger to ships, much thicker than the sea ice our icebreaker flips. I have asked widely, and I have been told some very good reasons. The Arctic's so cold. Oh, look at him. He looks cold, doesn't he? Earth spins on an axis that goes through its middle, making 1 turn a day. That's one part of the riddle. On the side of the Earth that is facing away from the sun, it is night. On the other side, day. Earth spins on its axis while circling the sun. It takes a full year till the orbit is done. 6 months the North Pole tips away from the sun's light and makes Arctic winters one very long night. In the summer up north, when light shines night and day, white snows everywhere reflects sunlight away. Without light, it's cold, sometimes 80 below. That means 80 degrees less than the good old 0. Okay, some of the books that we've read today, you can find these in the local library. We'd love for you to go over to the library and find these books along with many others that your children would love to read. And so I want you to just keep on reading. That's how you're going to get better, is read, read, read. Okay, let's go ahead and work on this book some more. Native peoples live here. You ask, are they nuts? In the past, they kept snug in their sturdy skin huts. Today, people live here, like you and like me, with houses and cell phones and color TVs. Some still fish and hunt, but not in dog sleds. Those marks in the snow are a snowmobile's tread. And this group of people that you can see here are nomads who follow their herds of reindeer.